Hello, this is Christina Simmons from the Say Yes to Holiness podcast, and I am very, very excited to have with me today a very special guest. So, you're going to get a treat because it's not just going to be a conversation today, but I've also been able to convince him to share some of his musical talents. So, I know that you have a great treat in store. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Harley Packer. So, Harley, welcome to the Say Yes to Holiness show, and tell everybody where it is that you're at, and actually, where is it that you're sitting right now?
Hey, coming to you from southern Alberta, Canada. It's a small little town of about 10,000. It's called Coaldale, Lethbridge, Alberta, or Calgary might be the closest point that you might recognize. And coming to you directly from my studio down here. And yeah, I'm a Catholic speaker, and I launched my website in 2015. I have been speaking part-time since then and doing parish missions, conferences, retreats, youth events. Since the pandemic began, I felt I've been just experiencing more of an urgency to get my message out there.
Mm,
My goal as a Catholic speaker is to help people overcome fear, anxiety, and hopelessness with
wow.
faith, hope, and love. So as I was praying on that, that just seemed to be such a critical and relevant message for our time. So I've been feeling definitely more of an urgency to
Hmm.
get out there. And so I just started exploring different avenues. Of course, with the digital world opening up, I was going all kinds of digital roads. And that led me to the OSV challenge,
Oh,
which is of course the avenue through which I met you
hmm.
and so many other people, and it has just opened up such a vast opportunity, new connections, new amazing people. So I'm just pursuing that as best as I can. And of course, that brings us right back to why we're here, because as I was connecting with other people, I met you and you invited me on this podcast, and here we are.
Amen.
Hmm.
So yeah, actually, I'm super excited because I've been able to make contact with OSV as well, and in subsequent podcasts, going to be having actually some of the speakers who are part of the innovation series, innovation talk series, going to be on the podcast as well. So we're going to
Hmm.
continue to broaden those horizons and those connections, and so I'm super, it's amazing to watch the Holy Spirit bringing us closer together, in
Hmm.
especially in the midst of this global pandemic. And you really touched my heart when you said about your message of really, overcoming fear and anxiety and hopelessness. And I had the privilege of talking with Father Chris Alar, several months ago, and we were talking about, just the mental health issues that are going on,
Hmm.
most people aren't really aware of. The opioid crisis has gotten ever worse, but it's really, those are symptoms of what you were exactly saying. And what we do need is a little bit more faith, hope, and love. And so that's an opportunity for us. But for you, how did you come to this, kind of this message? Could you share a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today and with this particular message?
Absolutely. Well, I think more than anything, faith, hope, and love has helped me to overcome fear, anxiety, and hopelessness in my own life. And it goes all the way back to when I was a teenager. I just got down a really destructive path as a teenager and seriously abusing drugs and alcohol, always in conflict with my family. Had the police showing up at our front door way too often.
Mm,
And I had actually, in grade 11, I quit school and just took up full time partying.
mm,
Went out there, did it all in spades. And of course, that just became more and more destructive to the point where I was really on the verge, just on the verge of self destruction, really. A series of events, including the death of my father
Mm.
um, helped me to see that there must be more to life. It kind of reached a crisis point. There were several events, including the death of my father, helped me to see there must, as all of a sudden, just longing for something new, something different. Fortunately, I found stumbled upon a Catholic retreat weekend for teenagers at the time. That was a game changer for me.
Mm.
I met all these other dynamic young Catholic people, and I could just see that they were so different from the crowd that I was hanging around with. And as I was on this retreat, um, I could see their faith, and I got it, right? All of a sudden, the Bible story became clear why Jesus came, his great love, his sacrifice, what he did for us on the cross. And I knew that that was for me. And I made a decision that day over 30 years ago to become a follower of Christ. It is by far, hands down, the best decision I have ever made in my life. And things just started to roll after that. My goodness, I ended up having the opportunity to go to the Franciscan University of Steubenville, and I was there for 5 years. And if you're at all familiar with it, again, it's a dynamic Catholic charismatic university. And again, there's a miraculous story of how I got there. After Dad died, he was a letter carrier. He worked for the post office. Didn't leave us much. Mom was working as a laundry aide in a nursing home at the time. We were probably lower middle class, I would say. But after this conversion, I got so turned on, and I heard about the Franciscan University, and I just knew that I needed to go, right? Mm-hmm. So, of course, and I'm from Canada, and I'm now looking at a private Catholic university down in the United States. And this is back in the 80s when the interest rates were the exchange rates were through the roof. So I go to my mom and tell her, Mom, I want to go to this university. And of course, she just about passes out because she knows there's just no way. There's no way we've got the resources to make this happen. Mm-hmm. So undaunted, I actually got an appointment with the Archbishop of our diocese. I was living in southern Saskatchewan, which is the next province over from where I am right now. An amazing thing that I actually got this appointment with the Archbishop. And of course, at the time, I had no clue. I was 17. I had no clue about sort of the hierarchy and the politics and all the pomp and circumstance that go with it, right? So, I mean, I realize now it's a little bit like meeting a head of state. Really, yep. It is that big of a deal. But I was oblivious to that at the time. Fortunately, probably. But anyway, I went and shared my story with him, and he just basically wrote a check for me to go to university for 4 years. There was some discussion. My conversion was so dramatic. I had mentioned that becoming a priest was even a possibility in this mix. So, he was very supportive. And as I say, he just wrote the check for me to go. But one of the most remarkable things is when I told some of my friends and other people in the church about this, their jaws just about hit the floor. You see, because first of all, as we mentioned, Steubenville is a very dynamic Catholic charismatic place. This bishop probably at the far other end of the spectrum in terms of conservative and traditional. So they're like, the other people were like, what? Mm-hmm. He's really going to send you to Steubenville?
Right.
And the other really most amazing, miraculous, beautiful thing was that basically he said there's no strings attached, right? Mm-hmm. Which financially or otherwise, And again, they were just, people who heard that were shocked, because normally any bishop who might be considering a candidate for the priesthood
Mm-hmm.
would probably say, okay, well, I'll send you there, but if you're going to become a priest, you come back to our diocese and get involved in it. Nothing like that. And everybody was just like gobsmacked that all this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kind of the further and further away I get away from that event, the more miraculous it
Mm-hmm.
is. So that was kind of the starting point, and of course it was very obvious. It was forefront in my mind and heart as I was going through Steubenville, that I would have a missionary purpose.
Mm-hmm.
When I was pretty convinced that my purpose would be to go back to Canada and do what I can to bring God's love and mercy back with me there.
Right.
Fast forward another 4 or 5 years, and I went through this whole discernment process about actually becoming
Mm-hmm.
a Catholic speaker. Got into Toastmasters, enrolled in a professional, it was the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers program, 6-month fast track intensive
Mm-hmm.
program to learn about professional speaking, which again worked into the plan very well. But there's one event more than anything that really is just more amazing. This was again about 2015, and it was right here in our town. And I was just finishing up that fast track program that I was telling you about. My wife was involved in the CWL at the time. She had an event over at our church, and I was there to support her. And I guess I got to rewind a little bit. The whole fast track program was extremely intense, and I was still working 3/4 time. So it was a very intense time, very, just to the max,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get all this stuff done. And in the midst of all that, I had also, why I don't know, but I had also volunteered to oversee the purchase and installation of the new sound system in our church, right? As if I needed something more to do. And so
I can identify, brother.
yeah, God, it's wired to please for whatever reason. And
Mm-hmm.
so and again, that was a bit of a rocky road too, because as I'm sure you're probably aware, music in churches can be quite a controversial and
Yep.
contentious issue. So there was all kinds of sides and opinions on whether or not this sound system should go in and what it should look like. But anyway, fast forward again to this event that I was at, and I was sitting at this table with this group from my church. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, one of the people at the table just took this pot shot at me about the sound system and was just very critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so maxed out and so stressed with all this other stuff. It was just like it just kicked my knees right out from underneath. And all of a sudden, I just started to shrink, and everything kind of went dark and
Mm-hmm.
negative, right? And it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was kind of like, all of a sudden I was like, I'm such an idiot. Why am I doing all this? This is never going to work. Everything just went dark and black. So the evening went on, and I was just really broken by all this. So the evening ends. I'm there. I'm helping to stack chairs and whatnot. And all of a sudden, this elderly lady who I didn't recognize approaches me. And she says, "You're Harley Packer, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "You were on a mission team that came here
Mm-hmm.
to this area way back in the 90s. I said, "Yes, indeed, I was." And she said, our son attended one of those missions back in the 90s that you spoke at. Something you said changed his life, and it totally turned him around. He has been a faithful Catholic ever since."
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, and she had no idea what a bomb that would be for me right at that moment. Right.
Mhm.
So just those little things, lots of, just confirm that, yes, I really, I have a strong conviction that I'm doing what God is calling me to do.
Yeah, it absolutely amazes me, the care that our Heavenly Father has for us, in all the little ways. I mean, so in that moment, as you said, no one could have known, that inside, but someone did know, the
Hmm.
one. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so he prompted, that I'm firmly convinced that pray to God, that we get to, get to heaven, and you'll have the opportunity to see how he prompted her to have the recognition that, oh my goodness, here it is, and come up and say something. I mean,
Hmm.
how often is it, oh wow, look at that, and be grateful, but we don't go and say something. Uh,
Absolutely.
we forget that everything we do matters.
Yeah.
And we just can't see it in the grand economy of salvation because
Hmm.
we don't have a big enough perspective.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
but wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So, um, into the midst of all that, so that missionary purpose and going and being a speaker. So obviously, you discerned, that you're going to be
Hmm.
a speaker, and so how have you been impacted during the pandemic in the midst of everything going on? Especially as a speaker. Mhm.
I want to say, first of all, I'm just so grateful. I mean, I'm healthy. We've been healthy all the way through. My wife, both of our boys and their family, including our grandchildren, are healthy, and everybody's been able to keep working,
Mm,
stay employed, and so I'm just so incredibly grateful for that, because I see and hear every day how so many people, their health is
mm,
in jeopardy and their livelihood
right.
is in jeopardy, right?
Mhm.
So incredibly grateful for all that. Um, the it's of course, as we know, it's a strange and trying time, and I guess, I've been speaking on how to overcome fear, anxiety, and hopelessness with faith, hope, and love for a while now. So wow, what a great time to put all these things, to really put them to work, right?
Right.
And when I speak, especially in the parish missions, I always refer to Viktor Frankl, who
Mm,
wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning,
mhm,
and that was born out of his experience in a concentration camp
mhm,
back in World War II,
right.
right? So hard to imagine a more fear and anxiety, hopeless
Mhm,
situation, right?
right.
And so, I mean, some of the wisdom that was born out of that, um, I speak on that with conviction and passion, because primarily that is what has helped me, right?
Mhm,
First and foremost, that is what has helped me. Like, and of course, referring back to my conversion experience, of course, things didn't change overnight.
right.
I think kind of as I get older, I begin to recognize more and more that my experience as a teenager and some of the stuff, the family or lack thereof, it kind of tore a hole in my chest,
Mm,
right? uh, that doesn't heal up in a day.
right.
It's been a long, slow crawl to kind of, continually, day to day, put my faith first, and trust, regardless of whatever I might be feeling or experiencing, or whatever's going on around me. God is in control, right?
Mhm,
And that whole lesson that Viktor Frankl teaches us from his experience. He tells us that everything. This is kind of my paraphrase of one of the most powerful quotes in the book. Everything can be taken from someone except for that power to choose how they respond to any given circumstance. He saw that, he witnessed it firsthand in the concentration camps, right? Because everyone in that position was exposed pretty much to the same horrific circumstances. That was sort of equal across the board. But what he noticed was that everyone responded differently, right?
Yeah.
Some were dead on their feet, completely, absolutely paralyzed, where others still managed to even find it in their heart to be generous and go and be helpful and supportive of the other people who were suffering and sharing, even to maintaining even a bit of a sense of humor.
Right.
Right. So he recognized that there was something within. And I think that is one of the most powerful revelations for anyone. We have that power. We have that power to choose. And I choose faith. And of course, one of the scriptures for me that connects to all that is Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Yep.
Right. And the way I spell that out when I speak on it is think differently. That you have the freedom to think differently, to take a different perspective on things, which in turn will make you feel differently, which will make you act differently. And so that for me, that's a moment by moment choice. And of course, I've had to use that very moment by moment in my own journey, kind of my own healing, and I speak on it. So when the pandemic hit, again, I really, I'm always sort of choosing that inner place that nobody can take away from me. Right? It's God's gift. It's a gift of grace. It's a gift of mercy that is entirely from God. I choose it. I embrace it. And I mean, just simple, simple, there's some pretty simple ways of applying it. For example, I teach music part-time, and I have to travel. It's a rural community about half an hour from here. And the drive, it's a really gorgeous, most days, gorgeous drive across the prairies, right? So that gives me an opportunity. I always pray, pray the rosary quite often when I'm driving. But, I mean, maybe when I leave the driveway, I might be stressed or anxious about what's going on, or, maybe something that's got circumstances in our home or whatever, or might be getting a bit anxious about what has to go on at the school, or whether I'll get this done or that done. But again, going back to what Viktor Frankl said, I recognize that as I'm driving, I totally have the freedom and the power to detach myself from all of that and just look at the big, beautiful sky or the landscape and say, and in my heart, I say, there you are. There you are, God. There you are. You're there, right? You're right there.
Yeah.
And one of my mantras that comes out of sort of an incarnational Franciscan style spirituality is even to say, I see you, I feel you, I smell you, I touch you, I taste you, because that includes just so many really little everyday practical experiences. And then all of a sudden God is very close and much more real and much bigger than any of the stress of whatever, pandemic included.
Amen. It's very similar to what I speak to people about. It was say yes to holiness, and it's about the fact of it's always about that conscious choice of us saying yes. And so, whatever it is that we say yes to, whatever it is that we let in, that's what's going to dominate. So that impacts mindset and impacts our heart and impacts our emotions. And it's about really opening ourselves up to the things that truly matter. Um,
Hmm.
and it's that perspective, and
Hmm.
it's absolutely beautiful. My husband is a secular Franciscan, so very familiar with an incarnational looking at the world. But it's interesting because Francis, has truly emphasized it and allowed, us, his followers in particular, to be able to really embrace it and live it out. But it's an aspect of God, of
Hmm.
where Jesus is the incarnation, and there's a
Hmm.
reason. I mean, he
Hmm.
made everything incarnational. So everything has been redeemed, in its essence, in the end, and we have the opportunity to be able to step into it.
Hmm.
Be able to do that by recognizing, for example, one another as the presence of Christ,
Hmm.
and how we encounter one another is our expression of our love of him as well
Hmm.
as each other. But
Absolutely.
but thank you so much. I want to make sure that we have time for you to be able to share some of your music. So, would you be able to share just very briefly a little bit about what it is that you want to share with people?
I think one of the other miracles of discernment of how I came to know that was to be a Catholic speaker comes with the Prodigal Son story.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I was developing the website, I knew that the whole concept of mercy was going to be a powerful thread. And so I chose the story of the prodigal son as a central theme. And that was back in 2014, just as I was developing the website. And it was only a few months after that that all of a sudden I hear that Pope Francis is going to declare an extraordinary Jubilee year of mercy. And
Mhm.
as I just get tingles when I think about it, because it's like, okay, yeah, well, I guess I'm on the right track there too.
Yeah.
And so, I want as much as possible in my speaking for mercy to be the touch point, to be the starting point. And I think in my own journey, again, in my first years of faith, I made God way too complicated, right? It
I
was
think we
almost
all
like, yeah, and it was almost more like superstition than it was actual real faith. Somehow, I got confused to believe that I have to reach a certain level of morality and have to be, believe, knowing and being able to recite all the right theology and all the right
do.
beliefs and doing all the rituals the right amount of times with the right amount of people. And if I did that enough and gritted my teeth enough and was, somehow that maybe God might turn his attention to me,
You
right?
might earn your way in too.
What's that?
Might earn your way in too.
Yeah, well, that was it. It was like a, and when I think about it, it's almost like, the superstition, in some of the comedy movies when they make fun about, there's the volcano on the island, but if we throw the virgin in, the
Right.
gods will be appeased and they won't destroy the island. It's
Mhm.
really kind of that naive and simplistic sort of superstition that I just didn't know any better, right?
Right. Yeah.
But now I've come to recognize that it's more about God, right? God is very accessible. He is so much more for us than he
Mm.
is against us. It's more about me just opening up and allowing him to be a part of my life rather than me trying to chase him down or pull him down from the heavens.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of, I'm hoping that that will be the touch point for people who are struggling, so struggling with
Hmm.
this time we're going through right now.
Yeah. So do you have a particular song that you want to share, which kind of encapsulates that for us?
I do. I do. You know what? I'm going to move over
Okay.
to the other mic, and I'm going to introduce this for you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to take the opportunity as Harley is transferring over, is that you can find more about Harley at prayerfortheprodigal.com. So that's his website, prayerfortheprodigal.com. And you can send him an email at harley@prayerfortheprodigal.com. And as he said, he's a speaker, and you know, our ministries definitely are, integrated in the sense of, as are all things, of God, where we each have a piece that we're able to share to help people on their journey. And so I'm super excited that Harley's able to share with us some of his music. And, so I'll let him take it away. So you just about ready there?
Check, check.
There you go.
We're on.
All right.
This song is called "How Can I Keep from Singing,"
Mhm.
and I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to sing it for a live audience. I was actually preparing to do it for Mass. My wife and I lead music in church. We've done that for 20 plus years now, and I was preparing to do it for Mass. And just that week, as I was getting ready, all of a sudden the COVID restrictions tightened up and we weren't allowed to do singing in Mass anymore. So, but basically, the lyrics just so profoundly proclaim the peace that passes all understanding, that peace, that inner faith and hope that no one or nothing can take away from us. And it is really the perfect anthem for this strange and trying time that we're going through.
Mhm.
My life flows on in endless song above us lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds and echoes in my soul. How can I keep from singing? No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, What though the tempest round me roar? I hear the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love is Lord of heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing?
I'm sure there's a bunch more people out there who are clapping. No, thank you so much, Harley. It's been awesome.
You're
Awesome.
most welcome.
Great. Well, for everybody, thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little treat of being able to have some music along with our conversation from Harley Packer. So until next time, know of my continued prayers for all of you, and may you continue to be able to do whatever it takes to be able to say yes to holiness. God bless.
Amen.